A very good morning, dear students. Sister Evita here. Today we will be studying the fifth chapter of English 2, that is, The Adventures of an Understudy, written by Anthony Hope Hawkins. So, before we begin the novel, which is an excerpt from A Prisoner of Senda, I would like to give you a brief summary of the entire novel. We have only one part, that is the adventures of an understudy. That is taken from this entire novel. So to understand this part better, it is better to understand what is this novel about. So The Prisoner of Senda by Anthony Hawkins. It's a 19th century action and thriller novel about an abduction of the king to be of fictional Ruritania. So, it is an abduction. It is a kind of kidnapping. Whom the king to be? The person who was supposed to be the king. And he is kidnapped. He was supposed to become the king of Ruritania. Okay. This novel was the beginning of a long line of similar novels that takes place in a fictional European world. So, there are many different kinds of novels like this, and it begins with just before the coronation of the king. Coronation means crowning ceremony. Corona. You are very much familiar with the word corona now, yes or no? So, coronation means crowning. So, it is a crowning of a particular king is going to take place. So, that is a setting. And without this coronation, he will not be legally and truly be king because of the inner working of the government. So, it's compulsory that the king has to be crowned. Otherwise, he cannot be called king. So, it is stressed that it is completely necessary that the coronation happens successfully. So it was a rule of that particular kingdom that the coronation ceremony should take place and it has to be done successfully. So now what happens? The king is given drug and kidnapped so that he cannot attend the ceremony, and he is locked away in a small town called Senda. Now, while he is imprisoned, the story proceeds forward to have Michael. Michael is a person who is a half brother. King Rudolph's supposed to be the would-be king's half brother. Now, meaning of half brother means either he is born to his father or born to the mother. Both the parents are not the same. So now, he resembles the king and he comes and he claims to be the king to the monarchy. Michael's mistress Antoinette and Count Rupert, who later becomes a more prominent villain in mind, have their own goals and schemes in mind that complicate matters and make both the original coronation and the ensuing seditious plot all the more difficult to plot successfully. Now, this Michael, who is supposed to be the half brother, not the real king, his fiancée, the girlfriend, and the count means like mayor of that place. So both of them, they make the coronation more difficult. So in order to prevent Michael from succeeding the throne, Rudolph's advisors persuaded the king's English cousin Rudolph Rassendyll to impersonate him and take the crown in his head and then switch back to the rightful king whenever he is found. Now, those who are favoring King Rudolph, they wanted to stop this stepbrother taking up the kingdom. So what they do? They go and tell the cousin of King Rudolph and they say Rudolph Rassendyll to impersonate. So he has to represent, he has to look like the king and take up this crown, and later on he can hand over to the original king. if he is not found. Now Rudolph can be an acting king. Acting king means in the absence of the original king, somebody can represent the king. For example, like we say acting minister or acting principal in the absence of the original principal. So like that. Unfortunately, Rudolph falls in love with the king's fiancée, Princess Flavia, but he is unable to reveal his true identity to her because it will ruin their plot. Now, what happens? Rudolph, who is supposed to impersonate, who is supposed to represent the king, falls in love with king's fiancée, again, who is called Princess Flavia. But he cannot reveal who he really is because the whole plot will be ruined. Now, Rudolph sets out and succeeds in rescuing the king, who is then able to accept the crown and legally become the king. Unfortunately, Flavia and cousin Rudolph must part ways in spite of their burgeoning romance. So, at last, they are separating from each other.